Before that, 20 years, I worked as a TV host, journalist, and correspondent. 22, I was a military correspondent. About 20 movies about military, different Nazism topics from Ukrainian militants, about our departments, divisions, about the work of volunteers and medicals, military journalists, and only then I came to Duma as a person who, as a journalist, I have seen a lot of things unfair, what you need to change, what needs to be changed. So I got into the key legislative body of the Russian Federation. All conversations that what they don't get solved in Russia, so fake news. And Duma is that conservative body that determines the order of our things through the laws. The legislative body in Russia is very conservative, which I think is good in the stability of the state. But as a journalist, an experienced deputy, I want more speed because so many changes take place that the front lines would need what they need, but the nature of Russian state power, that's what is unstable because it's conservative. And I think this conservative state, they go into the hearts of our voters, and our voters, they vote for such a power that would guarantee them big processes, the process of development for the long time. So for some journalists, we want a great speed, more flexible, but as a human being or individual that understand the scales of the whole country, and many people live in this country, I think that it's good that Duma is very conservative. For example, we have a AI in South Korea, Parliament of South Korea. They have a whole department of AI that is already, through AI, they're working on the legislature. On one side, it's kind of dangerous technologies that probably, and maybe will offer some things. But on the other side, the legislature is supposed to consist from people that weighs yes and no, positive and negative, that has legal education and human experience to balance the issues and not to go from left to right to extremes to solve the issues quick.
Does Russia now have a policy with regards to AI, the whole artificial intelligence, or is that a work in progress, trying to figure out what to do, how to deal with this?
Yes, it's a process under construction. I think that Russia is a pioneer. If we speak about innovations in legislature, it's not just in a knife, but for example, we have made the law about economy platform that would be regulated between all the participants of the big platforms. For example, commercial platforms, marketplaces, databases. So this whole massive legislature volume, it develops quite quickly. And each week we make a law that describes that. But even in the European countries, if we talk about AI, we have educated a commission. I'm part of that commission that works on the approach to the legislature concerning to describe the AI. But there's a certain fork, like a crossroads. AI goes through all spheres. And now we still work on an approach of how to correctly sound in the law. And it's like a certain branch principle, or make a law for each branch, or make a over branches construction that would be able to determine basic principles.
Okay.
Again, know in the world that you have a law that we can kind of copy. So we think we're pioneers in that.
Well,
That would be ahead of the planet.
I don't know if you've had a chance to consult with many of your colleagues in the Duma, but what's sort of the general view right now of Donald Trump after, here we are 10 months, going into 10 months into the Trump presidency. Is he seen as a reliable partner in negotiations or erratic and unpredictable? I mean, I've got my own view is I think he's been very erratic, and if I was sitting in a position in Russia, I'd be going, it's like watching a ping pong match or a tennis match. You're going back and forth, except Donald Trump's playing both sides of the fence.
The point is that, of course, Russia had hopes and expectations, high expectations. After Biden being a president, it's like we have understanding as a collective Biden. Everybody in the U.S. will call a Biden. Because everything, all the politics that were taken, steps during Biden's time, is just really you don't have a mental health. But when Trump came to power, and he made that beautifully, like a Hollywood movie, with a bullet by his ear, he got into his state, into position of being a president on a golden carriage and walked on his golden throne. And of course we had expectations that with this throne he will use as directed. We were encouraged, the Anchorage meeting in Alaska. Probably we had a feeling that Trump is the politician who can talk to Putin at least on the same level. But it was important for us that those politicians that carry, we're in Russia, and Merz, Macron, wouldn't even count them as politicians, that new generation of EU leaders. For us, they are, they're not finished leaders. Trump, now counting his beautiful story of his election campaign.
Right.
He showed himself as a historical person. And as in Russia, we have read all those things. We saw that Russian-America meeting in U.S., surrounded by great jets, military power of U.S., with all the levels of respect. But further on, a couple of months after Anchorage, step by step, we started to have this like a disappointment, bitter disappointment, but we try to talk ourselves into not being disappointed. So for us, of course, whatever in U.S. or in Russia, people are people, and we want our country to be friends. We think that with the Cold War, the world has two states, big countries, that are determining the world order.
Right.
And we live in that thought. We're not refusing from that. We had difficult 90s. We have we have got some strength, and we think that we're equal. But due to all these turns and twists, from the beginning of Anchorage, they are turning inside out. And it looks like a circus show. And we can understand what we have, acrobatics or a clown or we're concerned about this. Maybe he has to do, he has to turn inside out. Or it is whether it's a clown that's trying to play, or it's acrobatics that's trying to work out. So what's the point? So we're in expectation what this show is going to end up and what would be in the final thing. Because the last thing is not spoken, it's not given. They still have negotiations. Both parties are in. But right now, that show program that they have, we don't like that show.
Yeah, it seems that President Putin's exercising a lot of patience. He doesn't seem particularly alarmed by what I would call Donald Trump's erratic behavior or his contradictory comments. And I have been told by someone who I trust his source that there actually is more communication going on behind the scenes between Trump and Putin than is known in the public. So, for example, I was told that on Putin's birthday, Trump called him and they spoke for 40 minutes. Now, the White House, neither the White House nor the Kremlin have admitted to that. So, I'm inclined to believe there may be something to this, that part of what Trump is doing is putting on an outward show to keep these domestic opponents who want to have a war with Russia, sort of placate them without actually giving them anything of substance. As we saw with the oil sanctions that were put in place, I'm told, I haven't read them, but from someone who read it, he said it's basically sanctioning Russian oil companies to take their property that they own in the United States, but they don't own any property in the United States. So it's like a sanction with no teeth. Is that your understanding?
I believe that I evaluated that Putin is the politician of a historical scale, and he doesn't make decisions out of the emotional state.
Yes. Yeah.
Clear, very good calculated. So there's all the factors that he has on the table. We don't know even the 10th part of it. The negotiations that took place behind the closed doors or closed curtains. There's something that the public doesn't see. For sure, I agree that they have such negotiations, not just Trump-Putin, but other channels also. So that's where the real work is laid. That foam that we see that spreads out on the mass media, undoubtedly this is something that you feed to the public. But in that foam, they have very sharp questions for Russia. And a question about providing tomahawks to Ukraine.
Right.
The question sanctions about our oil companies. I would not put them into the point of teethless or non-dangerous. For sure, it is the action of the animus state towards Russia, open animosity towards Russia. And at the moment when they follow, Russia will answer.
Okay.
And concerning those emotional swings of the Trump's administration, and everybody's very emotional there. Everybody that surrounds him, it's like a drama queen. The whole administration is a drama queen. And it's a soap opera that we watch morning and evening, and they just like flow with each other. They like it, they enjoy it. One thing we can do is ask them to drink some good tea and calm down. We talk about not about ambitions or personal interests, but we speak about the safety of the whole world. And Russia speaks about that many times, starting from the December 21, continue now with the Trump's administration. We don't, we're going to solve with Ukraine everything on a battlefield. We don't need anything. We just speak that the world is still at the line where a lot of countries have nuclear weapons. When the conflicts start fired up from the sparkle on the east, on the Taiwan, I think we're in a very serious situation in the world. And to allow yourself to have emotional activity, you can't do that like Russia and U.S. can allow themselves. And coming out of that, we expect a very constructive approach.
Okay. Marina, unfortunately, our time is up. It's gone fast. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure that once it's, because this will be published in both English and in Russian, and I look forward to getting your voice in front of my colleagues in America so that they can hear from a smart journalist as well as smart legislator, sort of the Russian view. Thank you so much. And we're